The latest round of ceasefire talks are taking place today in Cairo. We'll have the latest on efforts to put a halt to the war between Gaza and Israel. Plus,
in my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to electoral victory.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suspends his campaign and throws his support behind former President Donald Trump. Could his supporters alter the close presidential race? And we have our forks and syrup ready as we celebrate National Waffle Day in the studio this morning. Scripps News Weekend starts now. Good Saturday morning and welcome to Scripps News. I'm Erin Rogers. Well, developing this morning, police in Germany have apprehended a man they say killed 3 people in a stabbing attack at a festival in Western Germany. Authorities say 8 others got hurt, 5 of the victims suffering serious injuries when the knife-wielding man began attacking people. Police do believe he acted alone, and they still don't have a motive. Well, a delegation from Hamas is in Cairo today to meet with mediators with hopes of reaching a ceasefire. The White House called talks the last couple of days constructive, with National Security spokesperson John Kirby saying some progress has been made. The talks have so far included negotiators from Israel, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar. Officials hope the sides can agree to a truce that would end the fighting in Gaza and bring home the remaining hostages. Well, in a video address released today to mark Ukraine's Independence Day, President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed his country's efforts to defend against Russia and its unprecedented incursion into Russia's Kursk region. Ukraine is marking the 33rd anniversary of independence since the formal dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991 and the establishment of the sovereign state a year later. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. throwing his support behind former President Donald Trump hours after suspending his presidential campaign. RFK was running as an independent and was largely considered a wild card in the 2024 race. The two, while admitting differences, pledging to do what's best for the country.
And we talked about, not about the things that separate us because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together.
I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you.
Well, the Harris-Walz campaign issuing a statement extending an olive branch to would-be Kennedy voters that they hope to woo. But the strongest reaction by far has come from members of the Kennedy family. Some of his brothers and sisters releasing a joint statement denouncing his decision to back Trump, saying, quote, "We want an America filled with hope and bound together by a shared vision of a brighter future, a future defined by individual freedom, economic promise, and national pride. We believe in Harris and Walz." Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. It is a sad ending to a sad story. Well, joining us now is Brian Seichek, a Republican strategist and founder of RDP Strategies. Brian, thank you so much for being here. So starting off, is RFK's endorsement of former President Trump a game changer at this point in the presidential election?
Well, it is certainly helpful. You'd much rather have the endorsement than not. Its impact is really too early. Let's not forget, when he started out in this race running in the Democrat primary, it was an assumption that it was going to hurt Joe Biden, that it was going to draw votes away. But as people got to know where Bobby Kennedy stood, his opposition to vaccines, his dabbling in some conspiracies, it looked as though more Republican voters had come on board. And if you look at the polling just over the last month with Harris in the race, Kennedy's presence seemed to be a help to Trump. So it's really been sort of a mixed bag here. At the end of the day, I don't think it's really going to matter. At the end of the day, we're going to have Trump versus Harris. That's the decision that voters are going to make. Certainly, it seems like maybe more of these voters break Trump's way as opposed to Harris's way, but a fair percentage of them are just going to sit down, stay out of this race. So I think the impact at the end of the day is going to be minimal, but it certainly helps Republicans change the script after the Democrats had a successful party last week in Chicago.
O'Brien, I know that there were reports that Bobby Kennedy had offered to endorse Vice President Harris in exchange for a cabinet position. Now, if that same deal was made with Trump, what position do you think Trump would offer him?
I have no idea. And first of all, it is illegal to offer positions ahead of time. So I'm sure both campaigns didn't do that. It's really hard to say. I don't know if he tried to make a deal with Democrats. Like I said before, at the end of the day, I'm not sure this is going to have much impact. Voters are going to continue to learn more about Harris. They're going to continue to learn about her record. Donald Trump is going to continue to be Donald Trump. And this race is going to be about Trump and Harris at the end of the day. Next week, I don't think we're going to be talking about Bobby Kennedy all that much.
And speaking of the Kennedy name, we know it's synonymous with American politics. You've mentioned it's going to be a Harris-Trump race, of course. But this morning, members of the Kennedy family called his endorsement of Trump a betrayal. Do you think that will ultimately help or hurt the president, especially in battleground states, the former president?
Well, again, the goal there with people named Kennedy is to try to bring home some of those Kennedy Democrats that still have a fondness for Camelot, which is basically 75, 80 years ago. So maybe it gins up some of those old Democrats and harkens back to Kennedy and brings some of those folks back in. But again, this feels like a conversation for the next 48 to 72 hours. Kennedy will pop up here and there. But this thing's going to be about Harris and Trump and their respective visions for the country. So I don't think this is going to have all that much of an impact down the road. Let's also look at his polling numbers have been on a steady decline for the last 12 to 14 weeks here. He was in mid double digits at some point, 13, 14, 15%. Now he's really at 5, 6%. And had he stayed in the race, if you look at history, his number would have probably halved by that. So he probably would have ended up with 2 to 3%. Now, 2 to 3% in Arizona, North Carolina, Milwaukee, Michigan, Pennsylvania. That certainly is a significant number. 2% is enough to sway those races. But I just don't think this is going to have all that much of an impact, or we're going to be chatting about it that much down the road. It's a nice show now and something to discuss. But again, this is Harris Trump and the future of this country. The talk of the double haters, which were folks that hated Biden and Trump, those people have an avenue now. If indeed they did hate Biden and Trump, there's a fresh face in Harris, and they're going to take a look at her. And certainly she passes the fresh face test. But does she have the policies that the American people want? The fact is, the policy set, the issues that people talk about are most important: inflation, crime, immigration. That all gives Republicans an advantage. And if that's what voters are talking about on Election Day, that's great news for Donald Trump. Conversely, if voters are talking about what Trump said about this or what Trump said about that, or they begin to have concerns about 4 more years of the chaos, that will be an advantage to Harris. So this really is Trump-Harris all the way to the end.
All right, Brian, a lot of insight this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, as November draws closer, a disinformation battlefield is growing on the way to the ballot box. Katia Tubman with our Scripps News Disinformation Desk takes a look at how 2 groups of voters are on the front lines against false information.
Communities of color are now being increasingly targeted by disinformation. They're fighting to figure out what's real and what's not online and on their way to the polls. This video, posted in Vietnamese on YouTube, says the Department of Justice staged photos in former President Trump's classified documents case.
Bởi vì cái vị thẩm phán Elin Cannon.
It's not true, and it's the kind of disinformation my boy is trying to fight.
All I care is America politics, because it's my kids' future, my grandkids' future, and then their kids' future too.
As a little girl, Boy read the newspaper to her father. Now the retired California grandmother translates political news articles for thousands of strangers on the internet.
And they really appreciate my work because, they want the real news. They want the good information, but they can't read. They can't understand English.
People like Boy are now considered the first line of defense in the fight against disinformation. She's also part of the communities being targeted by false information, Asian and Latino Americans, the fastest growing group of eligible voters, according to Pew Research Center.
So when it comes to something like voting, right, if they aren't able to go to verified or reputable news sources and get that information, they will then unfortunately turn to alternative sources of media.
Disinformation experts like Jenny Liu say Asian and Latino communities turn to these sources because language barriers often block them from trustworthy information.
1 in 3 Asian Americans is limited English proficient, which means that they aren't able to use certain English language resources.
According to Liu, false information that spreads in Asian American communities tend to start off in English.
And then usually a few days later, it then gets translated into Vietnamese, for example, and then it makes its way onto YouTube, or someone will talk about it in a video, and then it'll make its way onto a Facebook post.
This cycle impacts Spanish-speaking communities too. Election disinformation expert Roberta Braga recently tracked misinformation in Latino communities.
What we found actually is that the majority of Latinos are not sure if the things they're seeing are true or false. So there's a lot of skepticism and uncertainty.
A survey from Braga's NGO warns Latinos who primarily speak Spanish show more uncertainty when it comes to recognizing false information. But when it boils down to who sees and believes that information most, Braga says there's a surprising trend.
The people who do tend to both come across and believe the false information the most are actually the people who are very interested in politics.
This false information starts off as a familiar narrative, a story or rumor they've heard before.
One of them, for example, was that elites are conspiring with media and social media to hide the truth from us.
The narrative then opens a pathway to targeted disinformation, Braga says.
That opened a window for people to believe, for example, that people are using vaccines to keep us down.
A similar false claim in Asian American communities.
There's going to be this new pandemic, or like a new disease is going to be created in order to push mail-in ballots.
Because of false claims like these, Boy plans to keep up her work at least until the presidential election.
Because everything depends on it. Our democracy, our freedom, our money too. Everything depends on this election.
Katia Tubman, Scripps News, New York.
You can catch more of Katia's reporting in our next episode of Scripps News Reports, which airs tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on Scripps News. And coming up, meteorologist Julie Martin will have the latest on Tropical Storm Hone. That's next when Scripps News Weekend returns. Welcome back. Hawaii now bracing for impacts from Tropical Storm Hone. And cooler weather, it's finally arriving in the west after what a scorching summer it's been there. A meteorologist, Julie Martin, is here now with more on that. And we could see some storms firing up in other parts of the country.
Yeah, the Four Corners region, we could see some more of the monsoonal activity start to really pull up. On the Atlantic, yeah, it's quiet right now, but we have had hurricane and a tropical storm now in the Pacific. Hawaii, you could see flooding rain and destructive winds as a result. First, though, take a look at this. Monsoon season has arrived here in Arizona. This video from the Phoenix area where strong storms knocked down trees everywhere. Winds there clocked at 65 miles per hour. Summer monsoon associated with heavy rainfall typically lasts through September, and we could get another round of storms there this afternoon. All right, back out to the tropics here in the Pacific. This is Tropical Storm Hone. It is expected to strengthen into a hurricane as it moves past the Hawaiian Islands. Now, we do have, so the storm is going to strengthen, but we are going to see impacts on the big island of Hawaii. We have a tropical storm warning up there for Hawaii right now, and we're talking about large swells, also some gusty wind conditions, winds in excess of 70 miles per hour perhaps, and we are also going to see flooding rain. Could see as much as 5 to 10 inches of rain as that storm approaches Hawaii, but really just brushes probably to the south of it. All right, taking a look here at our storms throughout the day today. I mentioned some of that monsoonal moisture here. It is coming up. Denver, you could get hit with a few storms today, as well as the Dakotas, but we are looking at New Mexico also potentially getting some more strong storms today. Here's a look at those alerts then, and we do have that zone, as I mentioned, places like Oklahoma City, all in line for that. Heavy rain, flooding, very possible in all of these areas here in the west. Also, though, looking at some more moisture being pulled up here from the Gulf, that's going to affect you here in the Panhandle, and then also Florida and to the Carolinas. Going to be getting a few more storms firing up there. The good news is temperatures have backed off quite a bit across much of the U.S., still staying hot here in the southern plains. That's going to improve, though, over the next couple of days. This is, though, where we're going to see the biggest difference. We're talking about temperatures here 20 to 30 degrees below average. In fact, in a place like Reno, Nevada, it's going to feel a lot more like October today than it does late August. So that is going to be nice if you do need a break from that heat. Here's a look at the temperatures then for tomorrow. You'll notice, though, still staying pretty hot across the southern tier. Elsewhere, some of that moisture, or some of that warmth, rather, starts to creep back in with those 90s showing up back in the east, Erin.
I'll just say here in Atlanta, waking up in the 60s.
Oh, I know. Beautiful.
Beautiful treat. Julie, thank you. Well, coming up, the Scripps News Weekend team loves to find an excuse to eat, and today, absolutely no exception. We are celebrating National Waffle Day. That's next on Scripps News Weekend. And we would like to hear from you. So call us on our Scripps News viewer hotline at 1-833-4SCRIPPS. It's a toll-free number on your screen right now. You can share your comments, ask us questions, or let us know if you have an interesting story idea. Welcome back. If you are just waking up, getting going, trying to figure out what's for breakfast, well, we have the perfect day for you today. It's National Waffle Day, and some restaurants around the country are celebrating the breakfast favorite with some very special menu items and even deals.
Yeah, and whether it is the secret batter or the toppings or the sides that make them great, it is waffles. It is all waffles. And we are here today with some experts when it comes to waffles, the owner of Augie's Breakfast Bar, Damon Johnson, and Chef Kristen Channing. And if you guys could smell this, you would be wanting to get your waffle maker out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's start setting the record straight. Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles. I love waffles. I love the texture of waffles. It's just something about them. And our waffles are a little bit sweeter than most normal ones to give you where you kind of don't need syrup unless you love syrup like that.
Okay, so we're
going to
have
you
pause.
Take one step closer here to the waffle.
So we can get you guys in the light because everyone needs to see you.
Yes, yes, yes. So what are some of the secrets to a good waffle?
It's the mix, making sure it's mixed up right, making sure you add the right ingredients, enough cinnamon, enough sugar, enough a little bit of milk, and make sure you put the powdered sugar on there with the strawberries and the blueberries. Like I say, our waffle doesn't need syrup like that, but if you want to have it extra sweet, you throw the syrup on.
Wait, it doesn't need syrup?
No.
Really?
I have never heard of that.
I'm not a big syrup person, but it's always like I'm eating dry bread if I don't have the syrup.
No, it's flavorful. It's flavorful at Augie's Breakfast Bar. You know, that's the concept. I created that concept off my dad's name. He's a musician, so it's kind of a Motown feel to it. We play Motown music, old school music. We got pictures of all the artists on the wall. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we see the fruit here. What are some other fixings when it comes to a good waffle?
We got the whipped cream. You pour some whipped cream on there. You got a little glitter. We could put some glitter on there.
Glitter.
Especially for breast cancer. We got the pink
That's
glitter
gonna go
too.
over well
Matches my dress.
Matches your dress, of course. You want to try to put some of that whipped cream on there, Christian?
That's gonna go over well with the kiddos. The glitter. Well, I mean, what waffle wouldn't? But have you ever met anyone who doesn't like waffles?
No, never. Everybody loves waffles.
I've never met anyone who doesn't like a waffle either.
I am not, I will say, don't kill me, not the biggest breakfast person, but you were talking about your favorite toppings. I love chocolate on mine. What's your most popular one at your restaurant?
The strawberry filling. Oh, sometimes they like the peach flavor too on top of it, the peach.
I mean, we're in Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia peach.
Georgia peach, yes.
Definitely.
So, National Waffle Day, what is it? You mentioned you've got the professional waffle maker here, but not everybody has this at home. So what are some tips for people at home who want to make a good waffle?
Make sure they get a good waffle maker.
Yeah,
make sure
really?
they get
Is
some
it a
good
big difference?
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Really?
I've tried different waffle makers, and this is like the best one. This is the best one. And so that makes a big difference of the texture, the way it cooks, and it even have a timer on it to tell you to pull it up so it won't be overcooked.
Now we know. I know talking about people at home, they can't, inflation's on the rise, so if they can't make it to your restaurant or other restaurants, what's one way that they can celebrate without breaking the bank?
Make sure they buy enough waffle mix. You buy it in bulk, so it's a lot cheaper to buy in bulk. And make sure they get the right fruit and the right berries from the market. It's better at the market, the little dip farmer's market, you know. So
Yeah, fresh fruit. What's the #1 selling waffle at your restaurant, would you say?
the #1 selling is the strawberry filling waffle.
Okay.
That's the #1 seller.
And when you say filling, it's inside the actual
Yes,
waffle?
yes, inside the actual
Now that
waffle.
sounds complicated.
Yeah, it's a little complicated, but it's just got to know. Actually, you have to bring it off the waffle line a little sooner with the filling in there. So
Okay.
it's a
So
little
you just
sooner,
cut it in
so-
half and.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, it's already mixed in there.
Oh.
It's mixed in the batter.
Oh,
Yeah, strawberry
okay.
filling is mixed in the batter.
So Chef Christian, if you can project a little bit, come a little closer, can you tell us your secret of making the best waffle?
All the ingredients, you got to make sure it's sweet. Nobody wants a bland waffle.
Nobody does.
No matter what you put on it, the chicken, the fruit, if the waffle's bland, you're not going to want it.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Well,
Well-
here you have it. I guess we need to taste these wonderful
yes.
creations, celebrate our own way.
You know that these will be gone in 2 seconds,
Oh, you
Erin,
absolutely
in the
know they
newsroom.
will.
Owner of Augie's Breakfast Bar, Damon Johnson. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Chef Christian, thank you so much.
We
And
appreciate
Erin, I will
it.
let you do the honors
Okay.
here.
You don't need syrup. We'll see. We have a knife, so I don't have to.
Here's the knife.
There we go.
That helps.
All right. Don't need syrup. We'll see. And I can't cut it, you guys.
All right, we will be
I'm not-
waiting for your response, Miss I don't love breakfast.
No, we'll see. You don't need syrup.
No syrup
As I talk with my
necessary.
mouth full.
All right, National Waffle Day, folks. Get your waffles. Thanks, guys.